Hi, I'm Adam Taplin. I decided to do my work with you on the effects of social media and news organization. I became interested in this topic after I was watching the Mike show. They discussed a story about two local Atlanta radio hosts who both got fired as a Twitter explorer when they did a tasteless spin on one of New Orleans Saints police who has ALS. Now these are two local radio hosts, but once people found out what they did, it just went all over the internet and Twitter and crazy. Presidents of the station would have no choice but to suspend the people and then later fire them a day later because of their actions. And this brought up an interesting question. Whether or not a few years ago this story became national news, and then got the DJs fired for social media ads. And this is why I became interested in the effect social media ads on news. People should care. People should care because the news is what people rely on for the daily form of local and national stories. And with the new advances in social media, people have started using them to get information instead of the old ways, like the old school newspapers, television, radio, etc. Instead, people are going to the new school, social media like Twitter, Facebook, and other things. People deserve to know which way is the most reliable and quickest form they can get the news. Now, when I was doing my study, a few main topics came into it. The first was the dominating influence of social media on media. And the first actual study was called Treating the Viewer, Use of Twitter in a Talk Show Context. Now, this was a very interesting study. And it was about viewers of a Swedish talk show and how they interacted with Twitter. It was a brand new Swedish talk show. And all they did was every time they used the hashtag of the talk show, they did a sample size of it and how it affected the television show and what relationship it had with Twitter and the actual television show. And the feedback we got was wonderful because it was an actual direct feedback of people's thoughts on the TV show. The next is called How Public Responses to Crisis Communication Strategy, the interplay of information, form, and source. This is also about the dominating of social media. A quick quote from that was how increasingly the public is seeing the internet as the most reliable source for news, especially ideal for generating timely communication, unique information, and interactive conversation. And that quote right there says it all, how social media is just taking over and changing news organizations and media. The other main topic I found was how news organizations use social media. And the first article itself was called Newspapers Connect with Readers Through Multiple Digital Tools. This was a very interesting article. It's about the adaptation newspapers have to do to keep up with social media and ever-changing demands people have. And nowadays, all the big and national newspapers are releasing smartphone apps so you can get the national news right there on your phone and instantly. And they're also coming with their own Twitter and Facebook pages again. So if you want another form, just instead of the old newspaper with the New York Times, you can go on Twitter and Facebook and see their statements in there. And they're also coming up with their own websites. And this is just showing all about how they're using social media to their advantage and adapting to the evolution that social media has caused them to do. The other one is called is the medium of message, perceptions, and reaction to crisis communication via Twitter, blogs, and traditional media. And this article's main focus was just about a company who has a bad public relations problem and what's their best way of smoothing things over with the public. And either it's with the newspaper, blogs, or Twitter. It's very interesting because it just shows the different ways people view things if it comes to a newspaper or a blog or even Twitter. It just shows like how people have adapted and want the news instantly. They want it from Twitter and they want it fast. And then finally, the last one, the most interesting one to me, is how is Twitter changing sports media? And this is a story about how sports media has just completely been changed because of Twitter and sports journalism, in fact. And Twitter allows sports journalists a way to develop relationships with readers that they've never been able to before with newspaper or articles. Whether it be good or bad ways that the readers responding to certain journalists. And it's also Twitter's also making things more difficult for professional sports leagues and everything. And there's had to be some bans for journalists because they were releasing information that sports leagues don't want at the time, released instead of going through the regular place and going to the newspaper and to their boss and everything. So there's also been bans, and this one was a soccer league, and they had to have bans on when journalists can release information into the press. And in my conclusion, I think that social media and news organizations can coexist. And if news organizations start to adapt to all the technology changes that social media brings, then it will be the best of both worlds. If they can perfectly intertwine. And people will get everything good that social media is instant and the feedback that you give, but still give the old school, which is the old news organizations, which is a reliable source and something they can trust in. Thank you.